Just a little bit added on to the beginning of this video. Firstly, to all the good people who tried to help these girls, sat through interviews, tried to get prosecutions and come up against obstacles and barriers that were put in their way. I've spoke with coppers who have worked endlessly on sex crimes and that to get prosecution, and it's just sickening. Hours and hours invested, and they just get doors shut in their faces, hit in the face with shovels, obstacles and barriers. And then the other thing, there is a serving Labour MP from an ethnic background who said that these girls, i.e. the girls that have been abused, the victims, survivors, whatever you want to call them, these girls should keep their gobs shut in the interests of diversity. What an absolute dog. Into the vlog. How do? It's a dank, horrible, miserable day. It's quite appropriate for this vlog. It won't be for everyone, all my subscribers. There's a lot of people who follow me and people I've met, people I've interviewed who've been abused. So this Rotherham scandal. The National Crime Agency set up Operation Stovewood to investigate the abuse of mostly girls. Little town in South Yorkshire, Rotherham. I'm a Sheffield lad, we just live next door. Abuse of girls from 1997 to 2013. At least 1,400. At least 1,400. It's grim. There is people who spoke out. There's a lass called Sammy Woodhouse. I think she was first raped at 14, became pregnant at 15. The children were badly let down by all manner of services, social services, the council, the police. No one wanted to touch this. One of them. A massive, massive scandal. There were a lot of resignations around the investigation, Stovewood, Operation Stovewood. People shouldn't have been allowed to resign. They should have been made to answer for their actions. There's at least one guy with Rotherham Council, and many of these people were complicit. Inclusivity and diversity manager who actively encouraged people to cover this scandal up. He's now gone on to work for the NHS as a diversity inclusive manager on 100 grand plus a year. Everyone involved in this who let these kids down should be named and shamed. Shouldn't be allowed to resign. There's a lass called Liz. She has life anonymity. She saw her abuser, a guy called Bossan, I think his second name was, get in prison for 9 years. Like I've said before, the process of going through the court system, the legal system, and getting a prosecution against a rapist or abuser is horrendous. Quite often these people, victims, survivors, are not treated with dignity. It's a harsh, harsh environment. It can take months to get a prosecution, and it just adds PTSD, complex PTSD, trauma upon trauma upon trauma. But she went through that and she saw her accuser get 9 years. He served half. There are moves afoot now within the criminal justice system that sex offenders, paedophiles, rapists serve their full sentence, and rightly so. And if they've done nothing during that sentence to reduce their risk of harm, which they can't. There is nothing. There's no courses. There's no GCSE or anything else. These people will always be a risk of reoffending, high risk. But at least they're looking at making them serve the full sentence. So this guy, after serving a period of time in prison, got sent to Cat D, open prison. Yeah, open prison. You get town visits and eventually home visits. Liz weren't informed of this. Potentially Liz could have been out and bumped into her abuser. Lads, I worked alongside prisoners. Low risk, no crime or sexual element to their criminality. Couldn't get to Cat D, limited spaces. Cat D prisons are full of sex offenders and paedophiles. Full. These people are high risk and will always be high risk of re-offending. So anyway, Liz wasn't happy with this, and why would you be? Someone who is, abused and raped you. She was actually held in a flat in Rotherham for 10 weeks. 2.5 months of abuse. Again, people don't want to hear this. They want to turn off, look away. It's not, there's no percentage listening to things like this, is there? We know about the trauma and the damage, A lot of these victims will struggle to have normal relationships. We know about the mental damage, but what about the physical damage again? Nobody wants to talk about that. Young bodies aren't designed to be having full penetrative sex and other things at a young age. So there's physical damage. A lot of these kids will have contracted sexual diseases that might have made them infertile. They might not be able to have kids because of the internal damage. Again, not pleasant, but it's a thing. I know at least one person, a good friend, who has chosen not to have children because of any slight chance that if she had a child, her child would go through what she had. Truly shocking. So Liz took out a private prosecution, and she's been successful. It was based on the fact that her abuser received not a significant, not a real punishment for his crimes, which in 9 years served 4.5 for repeatedly raping children. The guy's been made to sell his home, and rightly so. £425,000 compensation. I'm sure if you ask Liz, if she could swap that money and get her childhood back in a flash, she'd do that. But he's been made to sell his house. He's been back to court, and the judge has handed another £25,000 compensation because of the length of time it's taken. Let's hope this opens the door for more prosecutions. But I'll tell you now, not everyone. There'll be thousands and thousands of man hours. I said man hours. We know that involves lasses as well. Gone into this Operation Stovewood and the like. There's people who should have been prosecuted who've not even seen the inside of a courtroom. Massive cover-up. Like I've said, counsellors, social services, police, complicit. No one wanted to touch it. Not in the public interest. It's horrendous. So good on you, Liz. And hopefully, more private prosecutions. Sammy, bless her, said that South Yorkshire Police now, who will be dealing with any further investigation, should keep their doors open. as she says, many victims will still have their abusers in their lives, and that door should be open for future prosecutions. Deeply grim. I think it needed talking about this and mentioning. Good on you, Liz. You know, I hope I hope these kids have the best lives possible. Everything taken into account. God bless you all. Thanks for coming. I'll sit there.